Well, there's only a couple of us. We out here.
Set them back here. Sean? Head waving, please.
We're starting all over again with Alamogordo High School. And I would like at this time to take the opportunity to do some special thank yous and welcomes. Most definitely to our students who participated in all of the projects, their teachers. So as I call you, you please stand. Definitely welcoming the students and staff from New Mexico School for Blind.
Hello, New Mexico Museum of Space History. I hear you loud and clear. How do you hear me?
Station, New Mexico Museum of Space History at Alamogordo High School. We hear you loud and clear. Are you ready for questions?
You betcha. It's great to have you guys here today. Thank you. And I'm standing by for questions.
Appreciate your time. So our first student.
Hi, my name is Leilani Dame of Alamogordo High School, and my question is, how many volts or amps of electricity do the space station's solar panels produce?
Our solar panels put out about 160 volts of energy, and we regulate that down to about 150 and 160 amps.
Hello, my name is Timothy, and I'm from Academy del Sol. What part of the body loses the most mass while in space?
Well, typically the bones in the lower part of the body that bear all of the weight while we're on Earth tend to have the highest bone density losses. But we're getting really good at stopping that through our resistive exercise routine. We have a machine up here called ARED, and we use it every day for an hour, and it really helps.
Hi, my name is Nadine Smith of the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And my question is, how easy is it to control movement in your microgravity environment?
It's actually very easy, but it takes a much finer touch than it does on Earth. On Earth, if I wanted to jump up really high, I'd have to push really hard. But here, I just have to touch, and I can just float up and then just touch and float right back down again.
My name is Xavier Lajeunesse of Chaparral Middle School, and my question is, does a microwave oven work in space?
That's a good question. I think, I'm sure microwave ovens will work in space just like they do on Earth, assuming that the microwave oven is in the space station. But we don't have one up here, and we just use a standard oven heater and hot water.
My name is Alex Segura from Holloman Middle School. My question is, when astronaut Al Warden was asked if his spacewalk en route back to Earth from the moon on Apollo 15 was frightening, he said it wasn't because they had learned and practice. Do you agree with him, and how do you feel about your spacewalk last month?
I do agree with him. You know, there are some very dangerous pieces of the environment and some very dangerous operations we do in this business, and spacewalking is one of them. But we train so intensely and for such long durations that by the time you get to the mission and by the time you do the spacewalk, you're not scared. You know what's going on, and you know how to do your procedures, you know how to be safe. And when you're out there, it's work. You're busy, and you're not really thinking about the dangers involved. You're just doing your procedures and getting the job done. And I experienced the same on my spacewalk last month. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I had all the same thoughts.
My name is Clayton Bloom of Mountain View Middle School, and my question is, how does microgravity affect fine motor skills?
I think it actually makes them better because you really can't over-control things here because you don't have gravity to hold you down, and when you're held down on Earth, you actually have friction on your feet or whatever part of your body's touching the ground. So while we're up here, just like I showed before, very fine movements, and I actually think our fine motor skills get a little bit better.
My name is Isaac Quintanilla from Alamogordo High School, and we wanted to know that you play your guitar on Earth. Did you take your guitar to space with you? And if so, do you play the guitar for your crewmates?
I love playing the guitar. It's such a great release. It's a great time to get away from work and just play a little bit. We do have a couple of guitars up here. They're smaller and acoustic. One of them's right here. I didn't get it out because it's kind of hard to pull out. But I have been playing it a little bit on the weekends when I can get some time. And we did play for the crew a little bit. What was it, last weekend? And but the real time with the guitar is going to be when the next crew gets up here, and Drew Feustel and Ricky Arnold are also guitar players. And we're going to try to have a good old space jam when they get here.
My name is Joel Pena of Academy del Sol, and my question is, what are the long and short-term effects of intracranial pressure and visual impairment, and how long do they last?
Yeah, so I had to write down that it's a big long word for what we actually call that at NASA, and it's called the Spaceflight Associated Neuroocular Syndrome, and it can be best explained as a shifting vision. There's some theories that think that it's due to the fluid shift. There's some that think that there's some things that go on in the body, nutrition-wise, maybe that might be impacting it. And so there's also some thought that it just might be DNA and a certain response for certain types of bodies. But basically, the optic nerve swells a little bit, and your vision changes. And basically, we treat it up here by just wearing glasses and working with it. In most cases, when we get back home within a few days, maybe a week or two, everything gets back to normal, so not a big deal. But we have had a rare case or two where the vision did not get back to normal, and we are trying to study that and understand it more so that we can try to circumvent that.
Hi, my name is Andres Chamorro of the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and my question is, what kind of combustion experiments are happening on the space station, and what are they helping us learn?
So we have several combustion experiments going on the space station. And they include, we're looking at atomization of fuels and how we can control that and try to learn from how the atomization happens in zero gravity. We're also looking at temperatures of flames, and if you notice, flames burn, you see them, they're hot, but then they seem to go out. And sometimes they don't go out, they're just burning very cold, and you can't see them anymore. And the difference is normal flame's about 1,500 degrees, and a cold flame is about 800 degrees. And we have noticed up here in zero gravity that we can get a cold flame to burn. And this has a pretty big impact on both the atomization as well as the cold flame. It will have an impact on how we design engines and could have a very big impact on our control of pollution back on Earth.
My name is Julian Monasterio of Chaparral Middle School, and my question is the capsule the astronauts come back to Earth reusable?
So right now we travel to and from the International Space Station on the Russian Soyuz. It's a very reliable rocket and capsule. They do not reuse the capsule, but they do take a lot of the parts and pieces off of it and recycle those, such as the control panel that's inside that we use to control all the systems while we're flying the rocket. They'll take that panel out after we land and refurbish it and reuse it, but the structure will not be used again.
Hi, my name is Scott Mullen from Holloman Middle School, and my question is, are the technologies you use, such as tablets, customized to support the microgravity environment and other space conditions?
Well, when you say customized, everything we have up here is customized to do the job, and we do the job in microgravity here on the International Space Station. But that's applications and how they tie into our systems and how they connect with the ground and things like that. So from that respect, yes, they're customized. But when we're up in on space station here, they still work just the same as far as touching them and using them and flipping from page to page. I guess a couple of things we do is we put Velcro on them so that we can stick them to the wall and we won't lose them. And we also put plastic over the top of the glass, so in case they break, the glass won't become free and get in somebody's eyes.
Hi, my name is Haley Lynchers from Mountain View Middle School, and my question is the space station controlled from space or from Earth?
I think the answer is yes. We have the capability to control, send commands and have some control here on the space station, but predominantly we control the space station from the Earth. There are a myriad of systems that are integrated with each other, life support systems, payload systems, power systems, motion control systems. They all have to work together, and it's an awful lot of data to look at on a minute-by-minute basis to make sure everything's going right. We have a wonderful team on the ground that takes care of this, and so 99.9% of the time, the ground is controlling the space station.
Hi, my name is Christopher Vallejos. I'm from Alamogordo High School, and my question is, with all the extensive training to prepare for your mission, was there anything in space that you were surprised about or unprepared for?
You know, I've trained for about 9 years before I launched on this mission, and all I can say is that the training was extremely thorough and very intense. So when I got here, there were really no surprises. The one thing that I took notice of was the fluid shift in my body when I got here, and that's not something you can really experience. You can only talk about on the ground and what some of the symptoms might be and what some of the impacts might be and what some of the feelings, physical feelings that you might have might be. So that was a new experience, and so while it was not surprising that I was going to go through that part of the adjustment, that was a new experience, and it opened my eyes for a couple of days as I went through it, for sure.
Hi, my name is Kobe from Academy del Sol, and my question is, what types of stress do you deal with in space?
Well, you know, there's all kinds of stress that's going on. There's schedule stress primarily because we're always trying to get a lot of work done and keep everybody happy. You have stress going on that some things might be going on at home, some things might be going on at work, and then all of the little personal things, all the normal things that we experience on Earth. But the way we deal with it up here is, you know, we have our crewmates. We're like family. We've been training together for a long time. We like each other, and we make fun of each other, and we laugh, and we have fun. And there's never somebody that we can't talk to. In addition, we have a wonderful team on the ground consisting of doctors that and family and support folks that are always available 24/7, 365 days a year in case we have a need.
Hi, my name is Felice Ruiz of the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and my question is, does microgravity affect your mental health and thought processes differently than Earth gravity?
I think so. I've been extremely happy since I've been here, and my thought process is, you know, when you first get here, part of the adjustment is learning how to think like somebody that's moving around in space. On Earth, when you walk up to an automobile, you'll walk up, you'll stop moving your feet, you'll grab the handle, you'll pull the handle, and then you'll put yourself into the automobile. Up here, you can't really do that. You have to first touch off and then not touch anything, float over, and you have to figure out how you're going to stop yourself before you run into the place that you want to get to. And then when you get there, how are you going to stabilize yourself so that you can get into the position that you want? And then once you're there, how to stabilize yourself so you can get the job done. And that process, while it takes a little bit of thought when you first get here, after a few weeks, you're thinking about it naturally, just like you would be on Earth if you were doing it normally.
My name is Stephen Talbot of Chaparral Middle School. My question is time the same or different in space, and are there different time zones in space?
For the speeds we're traveling, I think it's safe to say that time is time. And while we go through several time zones a day, you know, we go around the planet on the order of 16 times a day. We see 16 sunrises, 16 sunsets. We maintain a Greenwich Mean Time zone, so that we're always on that same time every day, and our clocks move at the same time, and we don't have to worry about it. But we do have, you know, on our iPads, we have a world clock that we can set up 6 or 7 clocks where our loved ones are and our colleagues are, and we can see what time zone they're in, so that if we have to communicate, we can work it out so that the timing works right. So all in all, the time is normal up here, but if you look out the window, sunrises and sunsets happen much more frequently.
My name is Kai Merrill from Holloman Middle School. My question is, how well do 3D printed tools work, and are they durable and reliable?
So we're at the beginning of our investigations and demonstrations with 3D printed tools. We've been printing a lot of tools, but as a crew goes, we have not been using a lot of 3D tools up here yet. So I think we're trying to perfect how we print them. We're sending them back to Earth so that they can be looked at. We're sending pictures back, and we're trying new techniques to try to make sure we can make them and make them strong and to come out as designed. But we have not yet really begun to use the tool. I did have a sample tool at home, and I used it once or twice, and it seemed to do okay. Although you can expect that the wear on the 3D printed tools will be a little bit faster than the metal tools we use on Earth and up here on the station.
Hello, my name is Adrian Longoria from Mountain View Middle School, and my question is, what does an orbital sunrise look like?
An orbital sunrise is beautiful. So picture it pure black. You're looking at just a sky full of stars and you start seeing a little bit of an arc cutting through those stars, and you can just barely make out the Earth's curvature. And then all of a sudden you get a little bit of a blue ring, and you go, wow, what is that blue ring? And you look really close, and it's just the thin atmosphere that covers our Earth just starting to turn blue as the sun's starting to come out from behind the Earth. And then as it proceeds, the blue ring gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and then you can start seeing a little bit more of the Earth, and then you see the sun kind of come out. And then when you look down on the Earth, you're still over dark Earth. There's a lot of on the Earth that's dark at night, but when you look up, the space station is totally in the daylight because it's at a higher altitude. It's an amazing thing.
My name is Brittany Mason of Alamogordo High School. The question is, could you tell us about the plant experiments you are working on and why they are important?
Sure. We have a couple of experiments going on right now. One of them was looking at root growth in a zero gravity environment, and they're just they're looking to see how roots can pick a direction when they're not in gravity. And so, you know, we're removing that variable. Another experiment that we're looking at is trying to autonomously water plants and grow these plants, lettuces and cabbages, and nurture them. And when we harvest them, we'll try to taste them, and we'll send some back for science investigation back on Earth. They have just twofold. We need to know how to do this really well and efficiently with different sources of light and different sources of food and nutrition, and in order to do our long-duration missions such as to Mars. We have to be able to feed ourselves efficiently when we along our trips. And also on Earth, it helps us develop stronger seeds with stronger nutrition and stronger plants to help with our food situation on Earth.
Hello, my name is Terrence Dawes from Academy Del Sol, and my question is it hard to sleep in microgravity, and does it affect your sleep schedules?
No, it's not hard to sleep. I guess it depends who you are, but it's not hard for me to sleep in microgravity. You just kind of get in a quiet corner and you can fall asleep. We have crew quarters up here that are very quiet, and we have sleeping bags attached to the walls, and that keeps us from floating around and bumping ourselves on that. Our schedules are pretty much driven by our work schedule. My sleep has gone down a little bit when I've been up here, and I think that's probably because I'm sleeping very soundly, and that we don't have any pressure points. We don't have mattresses or pillows. It's a very comfortable sleep.
Hi, my name is Sean McHugh from the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and my question is, what kind of education do astronauts need to get to be on the space station?
So the advertised requirement is you need at least a bachelor's degree in a science or engineering or math or a medical doctor, a hard science like that. But typically, most people have graduate degrees, at least at the master's degree level for that. So my recommendation is that you find a field that you like and just do really well at it, and hopefully everything works out great for you.
Hi, my name is David Pena from Chaparral Middle School, and my question is there a delay or difficulty when you try to use a touchscreen device?
I have not noticed that, other than the standard, when the iPad's not working right or when the computer's not working right. But everything is pretty much just as normal.
My name is Christopher Little from Holloman Middle School, and my question is, what is your favorite experiment on the ISS?
So my favorite experiment is the spheres experiment, and that involves a couple of or several robots that are integrated, and they're working together, and they float around, and they have CO2 or inert gases that they blow out for propulsion, and they try to work together to accomplish a mission that has been designed into the competition. It's very cool to watch. I have not been able to participate in that experiment yet, but it's really cool to watch.
Hi, my name is Dylan Waterboard of Mountain View Middle School, and does carbon dioxide affect people differently in space?
I'm sure different people have different tolerances to CO2. A lot of years ago, we had higher levels of CO2 here, on the order of 6, 7, or 8 millimeters of mercury of partial pressure. To these days, we made modifications, and we have it down to the 2s and 3s. Most of the time, it's below 3. And, before some folks were reporting headaches, some folks were okay. Some folks were reporting irritability. Some folks were okay. Right now, we've had very little complaints on anything. And while the CO2 levels are a little bit higher here than on Earth, they don't seem to be having that big of an impact now, especially now since we're keeping them below 3.
Okay, station Alamogordo. That was the last of our questions. Thank you for the extra time and some great answers. Alamogordo signing off.
That's what I wanted to do. Now, at 7 years old, you're not really making out your life plans. There's a lot of things that have to happen between 7 and the time that you actually become an astronaut. But the one thing that I had in my heart was passion. And what drove the passion? One time I looked up at the night sky just to see all these beautiful stars and see the moon and to just wonder what's there. Why is it there? Why are we here? It was more about curiosity and questions, and wanting to be part of a team that was charged with exploring and trying to understand that. So as I went through school, I'll be the first to tell you that, in fact, I think every astronaut probably played this, or most of the astronauts have played this, is that they weren't always a straight A students. I was never a straight A student. But one thing I did do is, whenever I didn't do well in school or didn't do well on a test, I tried to figure out why it was I didn't do well. Either didn't study hard enough, maybe studied the wrong stuff, maybe just didn't put enough effort into it. And I tried to learn. So as I proceeded on through school, I always had this dream in my heart that I wanted to join the corps of space explorers, either as an engineer, as a scientist, maybe, as an astronaut. I got into UTEP, and right before I graduated, I decided, I want want NASA to know that I want to be an astronaut. So I actually filled out an application. You heard from Scott. Scott said that you have to have like a 4-year degree in a technical discipline, and then you have to have lots of experience after that. But I wanted NASA to know, I'm going to be one of these astronauts one day. Well, so when I applied, sent off my application, I got this really nice card back that said, thanks, but no thanks. And got turned down pretty flat. But you know what, that didn't stop me. Next year, filled out an application, sent it in. Same next year, I got another card. Said, thanks, but no thanks. Year after that, thanks, but no thanks. Year after that, thanks, but no thanks. 9 years after I put in my very first application was when I first got a request from NASA to actually come in and interview. And during that time, I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and ultimately got my PhD from Rice University. And so it didn't come easy. It didn't come quickly. It took a lot of hard work, it took a lot of effort. And I was never the best. I'm still not the best. Not the smartest, not the fastest, not the best looking, you can tell by that. But I never gave up. And so when I talk to kids, and I got 5 kids at home, I tell them, the most important thing that you can have in life is hard work and never give up. Because if you never give up, then that means you're always working towards achieving your dreams. When we got to the moon, it wasn't because it was easy. As President Kennedy said, you do these things because they're hard. But the team never gave up. So even after I came into NASA in 1998, from the time I came in to the time I actually flew in 2007, 9 years. So 9 years after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, just to become an astronaut. And then 9 years after that, when I became an astronaut, to actually fly in space. 18 years. That's on top of wanting to be an astronaut at 7 years old. So the most important thing that I can tell anybody in life, and I think one of the great questions came out, what are the requirements to become an astronaut, flying the International Space Station? I would say, yeah, for the technical degrees, you can look at NASA's website, and I'll tell you all that you need to do to become an astronaut, to qualify to become an astronaut. But if you really want to be an astronaut, if you really want to be really anything in life, hard work and perseverance trumps everything. It trumps, hard work and perseverance doesn't know demographics, doesn't know finances, doesn't know your background. If you're willing to work hard and never give up, you can accomplish anything in life. Now, I tell people, look, just because I tell you my story, and I'm a space cadet, because I really like space, doesn't mean that you have to like space either. So what's the recipe for success in life? Is you have to go deeply inside you and find out what you're really passionate about. Some people are passionate about medicine. Some people are passionate about, say, law enforcement. Some people are passionate about protecting the rights of others. When you find that passion inside of you, work hard, never give up, and regardless of what happens in your life, you'll accomplish more than you ever thought that you could. Because what you're pursuing is something that's deep inside you. It's finding that passion inside you. So all the students here in Alamogordo, my brothers and sisters, because again, I just grew up right down the road here. My parents were still at home in El Paso. In fact, the last time I was here in Alamogordo, in the school district, I was throwing a shot put at one of the regional competitions for track. So I do want you to know that you can do anything you want in this life, provided you're willing to work hard and not give up. Work hard, don't give up. Work hard, don't give up. And you can accomplish anything that you want. So, again, I want to thank you guys very much. I want to congratulate you, by the way. Those were, when I was on my 2 flights, I actually did these kinds of events, and your questions were just phenomenal. So my hat's off to you guys. You guys did an awesome job. I think it was a great question. And I think at this time, you want to do some Q&A? Okay, so we have a few minutes to do some questions and answers. You heard that the students here had a bunch of really great questions. We've got them answered, all on orbit. So I can't do any flips because I'll get hurt. But I'm more than happy to take a few minutes out and answer some questions that students might have. And so do we have, how are we going to do the questions? Right here. Is there Wi-Fi in space? Actually, there is Wi-Fi in space. The space station, the way it's built, the internal volume of the space station is about the size of a 747 jumbo jet. And there's all sorts of turns and nooks and crannies. So just like in your house, we have a Wi-Fi system set up, and we have repeaters, we have the internet. My second flight of SPS-128 was the first time we actually had an internet protocol phone, an IP phone. We used the internet, and I was actually able to pick up the phone and call my wife. So that's actually pretty cool. But yep, to get the internet on space station. What did it feel like going up into space? It's a phenomenal feeling. You're laying on your back, at least back in the space shuttle days. I can't tell you what it's like launching on the Soyuz, but you're laying on your back, looking straight up, and when the main engines fire up, you feel that rumble below you. Feel a lot of vibration, and you can't even. It's vibrating so hard you can't even read. And I, at the time, used to have 20/20 vision. I couldn't even read my procedures in front of me because you're moving so much, so violently. But what's neat is that from the time that you leave the planet, from the time that you're actually in space, it takes you 8.5 minutes. And you go from 0 miles an hour sitting on the launch pad to about 17,500 miles an hour in order to be able to circle the globe. So you get going pretty fast. And needless to say, things happen pretty fast, and it's a lot of fun. And actually, yeah, it is kind of a little scary. So, more questions for this side? What training do you get to become an astronaut? So you actually, my background is science. I'm an engineer. Scott is a Navy guy, so he was military. I'm not military. I'm a civilian scientist. So there was a much smaller percentage of us that didn't go into the military that were actually became astronauts. So when I came into the astronaut office, actually all the astronauts get trained the same way. You get sent through to survival training. You'll do water survival. You'll do cold weather training. You'll train to fly a T-38 supersonic jet. You will train to do spacewalks. You'll train to use the robotic systems on the space station. In my time, you had to train how to fly the space shuttle. You had to learn how to fly the space station. And then, for those who actually go to the International Space Station, you have to learn how to fly the Soyuz rocket. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of training. And again, it's one of these things where, not everybody has the same expertise and the same talents. Mine ended up being spacewalking. That was what I did, and I did that well. But everybody goes through the same training, and everybody puts the same amount of effort because you never know when you're going to be put in that situation where you're the one who has to do that particular event, whether it's robotics or science experiment or something along those lines. So there's a lot of training that goes into actually putting astronauts into space. What do you do for entertainment in space? Well, they got a lot of movies up there, believe it or not. But I tell you, the best thing to do in space is to look out the window. It's the best place to work that has the best view. The Earth, as you look down below it, because you're going so fast, it's actually moving at about 5 miles a second. So everything is rotating, as Scott said as well. Because you're moving so fast around the planet is rotating below you, you'll see in a 24-hour period, the sun will rise and the sun will set 16 times. That's once every 45 minutes you get to see a sunrise or a sunset. At nighttime, when you're on the dark pass of your orbit, you turn around and you see the stars. It's the blackest black that you've ever seen. And yet the number of stars in the sky are more than you've ever seen here on the planet because you don't have the atmosphere to filter out any of the light. In fact, there's so many stars at night that if you don't find your constellations immediately, you'll lose them in a few seconds because you'll have a field of view of stars, and you'll see the Milky Way is beautiful. You'll see all sorts of wonderful patterns on the Earth. And sometimes you can actually play games like trying to find the pyramids of Egypt, or say the Great Wall of China. So lots of things to do. They got some movies, but I like to look out the window. What does a complete solar eclipse look like in space? Well, actually, I mean, you kind of see it from you're up at 250 miles above the surface of the planet as you look down on the planet. Now, I never saw one myself, but you can actually see the shadow of the moon moving across the lit part of the planet. So I've never seen it. I've seen some photographs of it. It looks pretty phenomenal. It looks very similar, just like a shadow moving across the face of the Earth. So since your bone device affected by space can lead to bone cancer, or any kind of cancer, not necessarily being in the microgravity environment. What happens is that since we walk here on Earth, gravity's pulling us down, so your back is actually being squished a little bit, it's being compressed, and when you get into space, since you don't have gravity acting on you in the same way, you actually stretch, okay? And things like that Scott was talking about, how you have muscle loss and bone loss, bone density loss. There's also things that happen to you from being in space. But where you do have an increase in exposure to cancer is because you don't have the atmosphere and the magnetosphere actually protecting you in the same way that you do here on Earth. When you get into space and you don't have the magnetic sphere of the planet protecting you in the same way, the cosmic rays which are sent from the sun can actually affect you. In fact, depending on your age and your medical conditions, people have actually been disqualified to go into space because they've already been exposed to too much radiation. And astronauts are actually monitored in the same way as nuclear workers. So if you're going to get cancer, it's usually from the sun as opposed to space. And I think we're at the last question now.
Can you grow plants in space?
Yeah, can you grow plants in space? Yes, you can, and we're going to have to figure that out. Reason being is because if we decide we want to fly to Mars, which everyone thinks is going to be our next big destination, it's going to take us anywhere from 7 to 9 months to get there. And so, in order for us to actually get there, human beings alive, we have to pack all that stuff in advance. Pack food, pack water, pack air. And if we can actually grow a small farm, maybe like grass, like a wheatgrass, then the carbon dioxide, which we give off when we breathe, can be absorbed by the plants. And we all know that what happens is the plants take that carbon dioxide and turn it back into oxygen. And so that puts less of a demand on the environmental life support system that the astronauts are going to need. Plus, they also have the opportunity to actually pick those plants and eat them. For those of you who've seen The Martian, what I really like about that movie, The Martian, is that the idea of actually having to terraform and actually learn how to grow things in some places that things have never grown before is an integral part to human survival beyond Earth. Because as we look out into the solar system, there's really no other place that looks like Earth. So if we're going to want to explore other destinations, whether they be Mars, whether they be the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, we're going to have to figure out how to grow things in space. So again, you guys, thank you very much. We're going to have a big program here today. We'll talk a little bit about some of the experiments that you see here. So thank you guys very much again, and appreciate it.
Okay, everybody hold their places except for students who are involved in building. If you would all come up here, please. We're going to do a group shot with Danny. And then we're going to let him loose because he has an appointment in California this evening, and he carved out time in his schedule to come here and join us. And then after that, media will follow Chris. We'll have Danny available for a couple minutes of interviews outside the tent. And then, while that's going on, quick show and tell on the experiments that they built. Okay, everybody line up in just one big group here. We'll have Danny, have your teachers or the students.